Counselor Joseph Baca.
Here.
Counselor Michael Montoya.
Here.
Counselor David Ulibarri Jr.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have a quorum.
Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Romero?
A moment of silence for all those that we have lost in our community in the past month, and also for guidance that we do the right thing in the best interest of our community.
Thank you, Mr. Romero.
Mr. Mayor, the next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Romero.
I'd like to see if we could move executive session, just a suggestion, before mayor's appointments and reports. Or right after approval of agenda, I guess.
Let's do that. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I also have a recommendation to remove item number 10,
Okay.
which is the presentation by Leah Newton.
Okay.
And we're removing it. She may have been exposed to COVID,
Oh,
so
darn it.
she will
Okay.
be coming at another time.
Okay.
And also to remove business item number 6, and that is the resolution 2038, and that is being removed so that lodger's tax, I guess they need to discuss further detail on that item.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I make a comment on, I know we're going to probably remove it based off the recommendation, but just on item 6, if we can, for the next meeting, could we have them present the council with the proposed grant as written?
Certainly.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the council?
There's a motion on the floor?
Yeah, no, not yet.
No.
Oh, is there?
I just gave a suggestion.
Yeah. Anybody want to make a motion?
Just, Mr. Mayor, based off of those recommendations and my recommendation, I make the motion to approve the agenda with those changes.
Okay.
So second, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Mr. Montoya, Mr. Romero?
Counselor Baca?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you, Cassandra.
So Mayor, the next item on the agenda will that be to go into executive session? Was that in the motion?
Yes.
Yes. So, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Romero.
I make a motion to enter executive session, matters, for personnel matters as permitted by section 10-15-1H2 of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act, NMSA 1978.
Second?
Second.
Second with Mr. Ulibarri?
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Baca?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Ulibarri Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. Yes, sir?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to return from executive session. And I'd like to note that for the record, only those items made in the motion for executive session were discussed. No action was taken.
Second.
Second by Mr. Olivari. Roll call, please.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Baca?
Yes.
Counselor Olivari Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Olivari Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Romero?
I make a motion to return to regular session.
There's a motion. Second by Mr. Montoya. Roll call, please.
Counselor Olivari Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Baca?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
A motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Olivari Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries. Mr. Mayor, the next item on the agenda is the mayor's appointments. Item 1 is approval to appoint Adrian Crispin as police chief for the city of Las Vegas and enter into a professional contract. Turn it over to you, Mayor.
Thank you. I have a prepared statement that I'd like to read. As part of tonight's City Council agenda entitled Section 6, Mayor's Appointment and Reports, contains matters that I, as the mayor of the city, bring to the general public by way of the City Council. The public was given notice through publication of tonight's agenda that I would be appointing Adrian Crispin as Police Chief of Las Vegas. Based on the statements made in the local media by current and former members of the body and by the general public, there is much confusion regarding the lawful procedure for appointing and approving Mr. Crispin as Police Chief of Las Vegas. This is not the first time that such confusion has existed regarding the roles of the mayor and the city council as they relate to appointed city officials. In the interest of transparency and adhere to a legal requirements in the city charter, my report to the city council includes bringing Attorney Danielle Smith, who has served for 30 years in various roles in the community, including city attorney, district attorney's office, private practice, and recently the Board of Regents at New Mexico Highlands. Just to name a few, Ms. Smith has legal experience and is very similar in similar matters regarding appointing city officials, and she is uniquely positioned to address the council and the general public regarding this matter. It is my hope that Ms. Smith's briefing can dispel any confusion and conflict so that the city council can move forward in serving our community by appointing the police chief. I'm going to attempt to call her now.
It would have been nice if she could have been in the chambers.
This is Danelle.
Hi, Danelle. This is Mayor Trujillo.
Hi there. How are you doing, Mayor?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Well, thank you for taking the time to be with us this evening by telephone. I appreciate
You're
that.
very. I'm happy to do it. Happy to do it.
Thank you. The floor is all yours, Danelle.
Okay. So, as all of you know, I have served as city attorney and contract city attorney for many years, starting back in 1984 when I was the first in-house counsel for the city. And just so that you know, also I have represented the Bibb family for many years. and know that they've been big benefactors to the city of Las Vegas. So when I saw the discussion in the newspaper about the need for removal of the chief of police, I called up the first thing I did was call Chief Bibb and told him basically what I'm telling you tonight, and got his agreement that he did not mind if I called and spoke to your city attorney to tell him the position that I have always held in regard to this particular issue. And so what I wanted to relay to you, which I had relayed to your city attorney, and this has been my opinion really since the charter was adopted, and it relates to the 4 charter officers, the city manager, the city clerk, the police chief, and the city attorney. And of course, the charter calls for appointment of these 4 directors by the mayor and confirmation by council. Now, when a new mayor is elected, such as you were, the charter gives the mayor the right to appoint people to these positions. And then, of course, there needs to be confirmation by council. But the bottom line is that because of the way the charter is written, a previous mayor and council cannot force you to keep people who previously held those positions. It's totally your prerogative who should be appointed to these positions. And of course, you've got to have approval of the council in your appointments. But, I mean, the bottom line is that this is the one time that there is no need to do a removal and a vote to remove by a removal by the mayor and a vote to approve that by the city council, because, and if you think about it, it totally does not make sense that you, as the new mayor, could be forced to keep these 4 positions, somebody that were in these 4 positions. So the bottom line is those positions simply expire at the end of the term of the previous mayor. So you do not need to remove the police chief, the city manager, the city clerk, the city attorney. Those positions simply expire. And because of that, at least in the years that I have been involved with the city, we always ran the contracts, because of course the charter also requires that the city have contracts with these 4 charter directors. And as a result of that, whenever I have been involved with the city, we always ran the contracts pretty much right at the point that because we figured there was a good chance there would be a runoff election. And so we really run those contracts up through the period that a runoff election would happen. And, in my opinion, when you're executing contracts with the people holding these 4 positions, I personally think that those contracts should just run to the end of your current term. I know that some of the previous city councils would run those contracts for a year, but you really create kind of a strange situation, because if you run a contract for 1 year, and then the city council is not behind that person, you've really created a problem, because that person, just because their contract ended, does not mean that you don't have to vote them out. The mayor still would have to remove, and the city council would still have to vote to approve the removal. So that's why my opinion is those contracts should just run to the end of your term. And then during the course of your term, if there is a reason to remove one of these people in one of these positions, then the mayor removes and the council votes to support that or doesn't. So the only time that it's a slightly different situation is in the middle of your term, Mayor, there will be another city council election, and only councilors will be elected in at that time. So at that point, even though the charter calls for an organizational meeting, really that is a different organizational meeting than the meeting that this city council is supposed to have when you, as the new mayor, come in. Because once you have appointed these 4 positions, the only way you can get rid of the people in those positions, unless they resign or retire, is for you to remove them and council to vote to support what you've done. So, you know, when you have that next organizational meeting, you can't just appoint somebody new because we now have another organizational meeting. You have to actually have the support of council to remove the people in those 4 positions, if that's what you should decide that you want to do. So, but the main thing that I wanted to get across is that at this point, you do not have to vote to remove any of those people in those 4 positions. Simply, the contract should expire. I mean, if you give a contract that it goes past your term, you will create problems for the city of Las Vegas. But because basically, when a mayor's term is over, those 4 charter positions, their position terminates, period. You do not have to have a vote to remove somebody. You simply have to appoint, and then council either goes with you or doesn't.
Thank you, Danelle. I stand for any questions.
Mr. Mayor? Donnell, just for the record, is it personal opinion or a paid opinion that we're receiving from you tonight?
Well, I am no longer, once I took the position on the Board of Regents at Highlands, I felt that there were too many potential conflicts between, or times where, something is going on that involves both Highlands and the City Council. So I terminated my position as city attorney. So, this is my opinion, but it is from years of experience as the city attorney. And when I saw that in the newspaper, to me it was like, this is a bad precedent to set. I wanted to approach the city attorney and say, I just want to tell you, this is my opinion, this is what it's based on. It's based on the writing of the charter. So, the city, I am not being paid by the city, I do not have a contract with the city, and this is my opinion, but it's from years and years of being with the city attorney. And, a good part of that since the charter came into it was adopted by the city.
Thank you,
So
Danelle.
the other question, Donnell, is, so I do have concerns, the way I read it, and I know you saying in years past, I was able to pull up, which is state statute 3-11-5, where it says mayor appointments of officers after election. And in that, it does discuss the appointment, and it's, where the mayor has the opportunity for appointment at the organizational meeting, in which I know we haven't done that yet. But within that, there's some annotations that kind of caught my eye. And in that annotation, go ahead.
So I actually pulled up one of my opinion letters dated August 7th of 2018 that speaks to that very point. So, the city of Las Vegas is a home rule charter form of government. And the home rule charter basically starts as from the New Mexico Constitution. Article 10, Section 6 is municipal home rule. And in that municipal home rule, constitutional amendment, it talks about the fact that a municipality can vote to be a charter municipality. And, actually, Las Vegas is one of the very first charter municipalities. And it was adopted, our original charter was adopted after the constitutional provision, but before the statutory provision for charters. So when we had our first charter, it did not really comply with the statutory provisions, but the new home rule charter that we have does. And so if you look at section 315.7, it talks about charter provisions. And in that, it talks about the charter can provide for any system or form of government that may be deemed expedient and beneficial to the people of the municipality. And it goes on to talk about how it can control the election of officers, how it can handle employees, and it was really based on the constitutional provision and the enabling state statute that the city of Las Vegas, by charter election, amended its original charter. So there are a lot of parts of the state statutes that speak to different forms of city government. And you cannot look at those and follow those because we are a home rule municipality. Our charter prevails. And there is a whole line of cases that discuss, for example, in this opinion letter, there is a case, Apodaca versus Brilliance, that talks specifically about home rule charters. And basically, our home rule charter puts aside all of those provisions. So you read those provisions about a mayor-council form of government. We are not a mayor-council form of government. We are a charter municipality. We control, through our charter, what happens in the city of Las Vegas. So when you read those statutes, it sounds like, especially what is tricky is when you see that mayor-council form of government, and that's what you're citing from, is the mayor-council form of government. And there's a lot of cases about how a mayor-council form of government runs. But we are not a mayor-council form of government. We are a charter form of government.
I understand that, but if you read, if you read the charter says that if anything that's not cited in the charter, then you go to statute, which that's what I've done because there's no specific.
But you're not going to the mayor-council form of government statute because we are not a mayor-council form of government.
There's only the mayor council, or there's the mayor and commission style.
The commission form.
But I'm going to give my opinion here, and this is, I'm reading off one of the annotations where it says, the term of the office of police chief begins with the organizational meeting confirming the mayor's appointment and lasts until the next organizational meeting held following the next general election. So yes, he might not have a contract, and we should have had that organizational meeting and all that. But the way I see it is I still think that, and that it has to be confirmed by the council. And we did get a letter of retirement from the chief. My question is, if the chief were to decide to not retire, what happens then if we've already appointed another chief?
The chief position simply expires. When the previous mayor's term ends, the chief position expires, just like the city manager, just like the city attorney, just like the city clerk.
And my question is, where in black and white does that specify that? Because I haven't been able to find that. I know you're going off of past practice, but where in black and white does it say that?
3.02 of the charter says that the mayor shall appoint and remove. So the mayor, so we have a new mayor, he has the right to appoint. That is completely inconsistent that a mayor who has given the right to appoint these 4 charter officers would have his hands tied and could not appoint because some previous mayor had appointed. So because the mayor, that is one of the powers and duties of the mayor, is to appoint these 4 charter officers.
With confirmation of the council. Am I right?
With confirmation of council, absolutely.
And
normally it would be inconsistent.
You made the comment of being forced to be, for the council to be, force upon the mayor, the chief. And I don't think that's the position. I don't think that's the position we're taking. This, in my opinion, is the process. I have a problem with the process, that it should come before us, and I could almost bet, just as the mayor got his appointed a city manager attorney, I don't think there's going to be much, debate on that. If that's what he wants, we understand that he has the opportunity to put his name. The question is, the formality that I have is, and it's been in the past, and I know we can't get into that detail on what's happened with different situations, and that's my concern, is leaving that loophole open. Leaving the opportunity for suit.
Something happened. Maybe it was her phone.
You've reached the voicemail of Gamal Smith. Leave me a message.
Janelle? I'm sorry, you're breaking up.
Oh,
Something happened to the call, first of all.
yeah, it just, so I could hear her talking. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to make your last point, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman?
my last point was, it's not that we're forcing the mayor, to stick with the chief. I mean, I think we've kindly worked with him on his appointments. He's had him, unanimous choices, unanimous votes on his choices. That's not the concern. We're not trying to force anything. It's just the formalities of a process that I read, and that's that's coming from me, I'm one of 5, that I read that the process should be, whether it's a retirement, a resignation, or a removal of the chief, should come before the appointment. That's the way I read it, and that's just my opinion, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and, one of the reasons I wanted to let you know that I have been the fifth family attorney for many years is that I have great respect for the chief of police. If I did not totally believe this, you can be sure that I would not be telling you this, because, the family have been friends and clients of mine for many, many, many years. So, the fact that I'm willing to come forward and to say this, despite the fact that Chief Good is currently the chief of police, should tell you that it's only because the many years that I have as city attorney tells me the answer to this. And I'm sharing that with you. And, take it or leave it. That's my opinion as many, many, many years of being the attorney.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Danelle, this is Joseph.
Hi, Joseph.
How are you, Danelle? In the charter, if there's a conflict with any appointment that the mayor wants to make, either is a relative or related to the mayor or his family, or in this case, I have been told by many people that Mr. Crispin, whom I've never met, I don't know him, but apparently he's a longtime friend of the mayor. Isn't there a danger in any mayor appointing people that are friends of his, associates, to top positions? In my opinion, and from history, it has shown that a true leader doesn't appoint people.
She's gone.
Well, apparently she didn't want to answer the question, I guess. Well, let me say that history has shown that a true leader, whether it's government or whatever it is, does not surround himself or herself with people that are going to agree with that person and be a yes man or a yes person, but a person that will give objective information
Your facts are wrong. He has not been my friend.
to,
Well, you're telling me now.
well then maybe you need to clarify that, because a lot of people in the community think that.
Well, I'll clarify it right now.
Okay.
Adrian has never been my friend.
Yeah,
We've
okay.
never hung out. Occasionally, maybe, yes, but he's never been a personal friend of mine.
Okay. I'll take you for your word, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Is she on?
Yes.
Yeah. Ms. Danelle Smith, Councilman Montoya here. Are you on?
Yeah, she's here. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
I just first of all, I want to thank you for, and congratulate you on your appointment to the New Mexico Islands University Region. I think that's an honor.
Thank you.
And I thank you, Louis and the mayor and myself served in 2004, and you were, I think you were the advisor that we hired for the city charter when it was revised the first time. So you did a good work on that city charter, and after that, it's been revised once or twice, and it's coming up again. I think things got out a little bit out of hand when the media kind of portrayed, I guess, that the mayor was firing Mr. Bibbs, which is totally not the case at all. Mr. Bibbs does have a letter of resignation, not of resignation, of retirement, and his contract did expire, so we're just really trying to prevent any further lawsuits to the city of Las Vegas and trying to protect the finances of the city of Las Vegas, because in the past 20, 30 years, I think the city has paid out more money than what I've made in a lifetime for sure. But I thank you for coming on board and for noticing that we needed your assistance. And that's what brings the community together, utilizing all our resources. And again, Mr. Bibbs and his family has always been very generous to the city of Las Vegas. Without them, the industrial park wouldn't have happened, and others, the county jail and so forth. They have always contributed to the city of Las Vegas. We're just trying to figure out the process, and if we're not going to get sued at the end. That was it. But thank you for your confirmation and your expertise, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you. Denal, I appreciate your time.
You're very welcome.
All right.
Good luck to all of you. You know, you have a big job to do. Anything I can do to help, I will do.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. So based on the legal briefing provided by Ms. Smith, I will entertain a motion by council to approve my appointment of Adrian Crispin as the police chief.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Romero?
I make a motion to table your mayor's appointment, the approval of Adrian Crispin, to table it to the next meeting of your desire. But in that meeting, I'd like to also make a motion to place the acceptance of retirement of Mr. Chief Bibb in that same meeting, and that's my motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Mayor, are we voting on two action items?
It's one item with the two, one is to table this appointment tonight, and have a second meeting to include the acceptance of Mr. Bibb's retirement letter.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask our legal section for just clarification? Because the way I understand it, Mr. Bibbs isn't on here to address.
Okay, well, let's break it into two motions, and then we can deal with them separately. That'll be cleaner.
Okay.
Do you want to make one motion and then another one?
I make a motion to table the approval of the appointment of Adrian Crispin as police chief.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor, just a thought. I don't know how the council will feel about this. You know, we do have a retreat coming up. The city manager gave us a sheet with choices of what dates. Could we maybe even delay this topic again, of appointment of a chief, until after we have the retreat, where we can really discuss, along with a lot of other issues, but really discuss this issue, where we can really have an input. It's up to you, Councilor.
My motion will, just to table, Mr. Mayor, that's a motion.
There's a motion on the floor to table.
So what's the reasoning for tabling?
The reason for tabling is to, and that's why I was included in the motion, was that we accept Chief Bibb's retirement.
Well,
And it's because of the process that, again, I believe that the process should be that whether it's retirement or resignation or removal, it should be approved by council. And then at that point, then we appoint the new chief. And
I
that's my reason.
agree with that, because that's what should have happened in the first place, Councilor.
I have a legal point, Mayor.
Yes.
What happens if the council votes not to accept his retirement?
Then we're in big trouble.
Exactly. So is there really, what's the ultimate purpose? Does the council even have a choice to accept his retirement? What happens if the council says, no, we don't accept it, then what?
Well, that should have been brought to us in the beginning, Mr. Attorney, by the mayor. It should have, if everything would have been brought to us in the beginning in a clean way, I don't think we'd be in the position that we are today. But it seems to me that the whole problem was created because I asked the city manager many questions. I says, where did this name come from? The mayor. Did you interview him, or did the mayor interview him? Nobody interviewed him. Did you ask for references? We didn't ask for any references.
I interviewed him and I got references.
Well, we've never seen them. I haven't seen them.
Mr. Mayor?
So those are my questions.
There's a
to the
motion
city
on the
manager.
floor. Is there a second to table it?
I second the motion.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Counselor Montoya?
No.
Counselor Baca?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
No.
We have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Baca. Mr. Mayor, there is a tie.
No.
Mr. Mayor, motion is not carried.
Thank you.
Mr. Crispin's appointment, no.
If the council so chooses, a motion can be made.
I also move, Mr. Mayor, that we accept your appointment for police chief of the city of Las Vegas, Mr. Adrian Crispin.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Montoya,
Second.
second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please.
Counselor Baca?
No. No.
Counselor Romero?
I'd just like to note, this had nothing to do with Mr. Crispin. It was the process, and I'm voting to approve him. Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes, and I'd also like to comment that I got a copy of the resignation letter that I requested for. Not resignation, but a retirement letter from Mr. Bibbs. And after talking to Ms. Danelle Smith, I believe this is the right thing to do and get it over with. Hope the media gets it right this time. And let the city move forward.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Montoya, a second by Counselor Ulibarri Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you, council. Mr. Crispin is here. Would you mind if he addresses the council real quick? It won't take long. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the new police chief of Las Vegas, Mr. Adrian Crispin. Welcome. Thank you. Welcome. This is his wife, Lisa, his daughter, Haley, and Adriana. Would you like to address the council, Mr. Crispin?
Sure. Thank you to the citizens of Las Vegas, to the council, to the guests, and also to the staff of Las Vegas Police Department and everybody else. I just have a few things to say. I know it's been a really tumultuous time here, trying to get past this appointment and everything for all of us. I remember most of you, Mr. Baca, when he was on city council. I think I was a rookie back then. I've been to your radio station many times to speak on behalf of Las Vegas Police Department. So I know most of you here. I've worked here for 25 years within the city of Las Vegas. I just still am going to be leaving Highlands University, where I was employed after retirement. But, I just want to say a few things before, and I wrote them down, and I just want to thank God today that He allowing me this opportunity. I would like to thank my wife, who has stood by me and my children for the last 25 years of my law enforcement career. I'd also like to thank Mayor Louis Trujillo, Councilman Dave Romero, Councilman David Labrie, Councilman Mike Montoya, and Councilman J.P. Baca for entrusting me with the city of Las Vegas, and also the officers that do patrol and work for the city of Las Vegas, and also the staff of the city of Las Vegas. It's going to be a hard fight, but we have a vision for Las Vegas. I do. And I think that if we can put our vision together with all our staff and everybody and work together for that vision, I think we could make Las Vegas a safer place, and also for a better environment for our citizens, and also for our visitors that come to Las Vegas. One of the things I believe in community policing, and you know, the first thing about community policing is the people of the public, the citizens of Las Vegas. That's who my concerns are. That's who all our concerns are for law enforcement. The next thing is the policing, you know, the policing policies. We're going through a big time here, challenging times for all the police departments around the country. I'm just worried about Las Vegas. Okay, I keep up with current events and everything, but I'm worried about Las Vegas, about defunding police and everything. But we as a community have to work together, because we are a small community. We're not these big New York police departments or anything. I do want to, you know, my vision on that is I want to create a unified department for Las Vegas and for the police department. I also want to be mindful of our officers' wellness and well-being for them and their safety. I want to improve the recruitment and hiring process for the City of Las Vegas Police Department. So there's some other things here that I really want to do for our department. I also want to go in and evaluate and make changes that are going to be positive for our department, for the City of Las Vegas, for our city officers with Las Vegas Police Department. So I just want to really thank you guys again, thank the council for entrusting me with this big position, and I will do my best for the city and for the City of Las Vegas, and I thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Walker?
Mr. Crispin, in being upfront with you, I was the other one that voted no, but I want you to know that it's not a vote against you personally. From the beginning, I have not met eye to eye with the mayor with the process that he dealt with this issue. I honestly feel that he was not up front with the community. He wasn't transparent, and I know that has nothing to do with you. But I just want to clarify that my vote was not meant anything against you or your family. It was the mayor's process.
And I understand the process, Mr. Baca, City Councilman.
Thank you.
I look forward to working with all of you. Look forward to working with the council, the mayor, city, staff, everybody. Anytime, once I take position, anytime anybody wants to go visit the police department, they're more than welcome to sit down with me, talk about our vision, talk about our infrastructure, anything like that. Right now, I'm working already, trying to get funding for some body cameras. I've been talking with some senators, so I think you saw my letters of references that were brought to in front of you, and also my resume. So thank you very much again, and you know, it's been a long road, but we finally got it done. Thank you.
Welcome, Adrian.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate everything.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Romero?
Reviewing the agenda now is, I don't think in the motion that was made was just to appoint. We didn't make the motion to enter into contract. Is that, do we need a separate motion on that?
If you have approved him, governing body, it says shall enter into a contract with the police chief. Doesn't say you have to vote on it.
But I think the motion was made just to appoint.
To approve the appointment, if you feel more comfortable voting to extend the contract, then you're free to make a motion to that effect. But it seems to be here that the governing body shall enter a contract with the chief of police. But if you want to vote, if you want to put that on the floor, that's the pleasure of the council.
It's going to be in the agenda, does it?
But the motion didn't include that.
That's what's on there.
It's stated
The
right here.
governing body is entering into a contract with the chief of
Right.
police.
Mr.
His
Mayor, I
appointment.
agree, it's part of the charter, and when you appoint, it's also to enter into the contract.
So it's covered? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. Thank you, Adrian, appreciate it. Thank you. Inca. Good luck. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is councilors' reports.
Okay. Anybody for reports?
I'd just like to report that I want to give kudos to the Councilman Olivari. He did an outstanding job at Saturday on the Ward 1 cleanup. He indicated that there was like 50 people that showed up, and we don't have the final report of everything that was picked up, or the poundage, or the savings, but I'm sure he'll give it to you guys later. I think it's working, and we're identifying other areas that need work in the city. So I'm pretty stoked with all that cleaning up of the city. Even though there's a lot of people still dumping, illegal dumping, we're doing something good for the community, and more people are tuning in and hanging on, and I think it's very successful. And thank you to our staff, our city manager also, and our economic development director, and all the other employees that showed up and stuff like that. So appreciate their hard work and support. You know, that's all voluntary, they're not getting paid, and it's awesome to see them out there talking to the neighborhood, people coming out taking us water and stuff like that. So I encourage all organizations that don't have anything to do to get on board. Our next one is at Councilman Joseph Baca's ward, and I'm sure Economic Development Director will let us know the details on that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Montoya.
And also, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to note that the end of the month, there will be the Salvation Army will be giving out food again. They were down for inventory in Santa Fe, and inventory and cleanup and all that stuff. But they're coming back now at the end of July, across the street at the Salvation Army.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Olivari?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to thank everybody that helped on Saturday's cleanup day, and Mr. Mayor, Mr. Manager, whoever helped us. It was a very, very successful day. My daughter was here from Albuquerque. She even helped her sons, her daughters, and it was really nice. We cleaned up, I'd say, half of the ward. We're still looking at a second phase, but it showed a difference, a very big difference. I don't have a report on how much tons we took in, but I just want to thank everybody, and what I want to say is, you know, if there's city employees that are in Ward 1, Ward 2, Ward 3, come out and give us a hand. 30 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. It makes a difference, because, you know, people start caring about their yards, they start caring about the streets. But I want to thank everybody. Thanks a lot, and we'll follow through.
Thank you, Mr. Olivari. Very good.
Nothing, just thank you, Dr. Taylor, for, addressing, some of the concerns as as the month through, as I send them to you, address them in a timely manner. One thing I would ask Dr. Taylor, I know we had done a survey, and I don't know if they've been compiled, but in that survey at Crestone Circle, there was a discussion, because there's a lot of speeding and no stop signs there in that area. And I know one of the questions in there pertained to, the option of speed bump and their opinion on it, and it was overwhelmingly in support of it. So could you speak with, I guess who you need to speak to on, looking into that, just, when we could address that?
We'd be glad to do that. I think I got a request earlier today about no stop signs on Lincoln between 12th Street and Grand Avenue. And so we've already got people hopping on that, and we'll do the same for this.
And then the other question in my report, Mr. Mayor, so I know now we've hired a chief, the Police Advisory Commission that's in the charter. would you be getting names from us, or how would you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be coming in the next week or so. We'll be asking you to submit names for that.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
yes,
That's it.
thank you. Cassandra?
Mr. Mayor, next item on the agenda is mayor's recognitions, proclamations.
I don't have any at this point. Thank you.
Next item is public input. I have one signed up for public input, Ms. Beth Rings, and her issue is item number 9, which is on the agenda as the authorizing the sale of the unused and vacant properties.
Okay. Welcome, Beth.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Excellent. What my questions are, and I have the list of properties now, and I guess I'm wondering is the taxes, are they up to date?
We don't pay taxes.
There's no taxes on any of these properties?
We're tax exempt.
Okay. I noticed that some of these are just little tracts of land, and then some are like the old city dump site, which is over 41 acres. Obviously, that's classed differently. Do we have potential buyers for this, for any of these? Or,
A couple of them, we've had some potential buyers in some of them.
okay, so
Mr. Mayor.
when we say potential buyers, are they?
Let me just point out a little procedure, okay?
I know I'm supposed to be talking to you guys, I have someone back here.
I will have the city manager call you
Okay.
regarding that, because we have had some interested buyers, but I'll have him call you and set up some time and go over that with you. But definitely,
Okay, I guess the other thing is, has there been inspections? And if there are, who's going to pay for them? And I guess once some of these, do we have a realtor that's doing this? Or is this just being put out like on a listing
The
someplace?
first step in this process is to get approval to do this so that we can go out and get appraisals.
Oh,
They-
yeah.
They will be appraised.
You have that. So you haven't had them appraised yet?
No.
Okay, so we're going to appraise them and then we've already have the approval, and then we're going to appraise them.
This is an approval to get them appraised now.
Yeah, okay.
So in order to sell them, we have to get them appraised.
Yes. Now, the city is paying for the appraisal?
The city will pay for I think that the law is...
Mr. Mayor, point of procedure, I know, usually this doesn't, I know, when you came in, there was, the public input, and I'm sorry, Beth.
Oh, no, that's fine,
But
that's
there are
fine.
process of public input is they speak for their time, and there's no communication back and forth at that time, if, we can't get into dialogue, because let's say there's and I'm going to use this example
That's
of, if we have public input of 40 people, we can't answer every single question, and just
No,
a
have
point
I
of
gone over
procedure,
my
Mr. Mayor.
time?
No.
Oh,
No, the point, Mr. Mayor, is that we just passed a resolution last month, and it indicates that any guests need to direct any questions to the mayor.
okay.
We will be answering all your questions during that action item number 9. We'll be asking those questions for you, of staff.
Okay. And I guess the other thing that I'm concerned about, as well as a lot of people are, is that once a piece of property is sold, is it going to turn into a POS? Because we got plenty of those in town, and they don't sell.
thank you, Beth.
You bet.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is city manager's report.
Okay. Bill, could you come up to this desk so that you can have a microphone? Thank you. Thank you, Beth.
No worries.
We're gonna, please. We'll be discussing those items, Mayor, we'll be discussing those items on that item. Volví a pelear con él, los amigos. Still have a quorum, sir. We have Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. My report, the first item on the report is just a reminder that we're going to have a special meeting to approve the budget, and that will happen on July 30th at 3 o'clock. And the second sentence on there is just to let you know we are really time constrained. The COVID set things way behind schedule, but we have time. We have time to present this to you, and then the next day by 5 o'clock we have to submit the budget to DFA. So, second thing, you all received I put on your desk a form where about the retreat and asking about potential dates. The mayor asked that we do that. And all I would ask that you do on there is that there's 2 parts to the form. There are 4 dates, I believe, and just if you would rank them, which one is your favorite, which is your second, third, and fourth, and then the next part of that survey is what are the kinds of things that you would like to see discussed at the retreat tonight. So, the third item is about the rec center, and I put it on there because I know I heard some concern from some of you and from some people in town. On Monday morning, we were closed for a very short period of time, well, actually between 9 and noon, because we had a report that somebody who was working out there had COVID, and he reported that he had worked out there every day the prior week. And so in order to be careful, we talked to the Department of Health and said, how do we proceed with this kind of a case? And they said, they asked a number of questions. Were your people spacing? Were they wearing masks? We answered yes to all of those things. They said, were you cleaning the machines on a regular basis? And we said yes and more, because there was like every couple hours we actually clean the machines after every use. And so they said, you're following all the best practices. There's no reason for you to keep the rec center closed. And so we opened it that day at noon, and we've gone back to the regular hours. The second part of that announcement is we had discussion last time about the finances and how much we were going to be able to keep the rec center open, and so we've put on our website, we've announced there's something like 20 posters all over the rec center that we will be only open 8 hours a day starting next Monday. So just wanted to let you know so that if you get calls on that, we are doing our best to inform people. This fourth item is all of our staff really worked hard including our elected officials, you all, to try to do what we could to help local businesses stay open. A lot of businesses, especially restaurants throughout the state and throughout the country, are closing, and so we took advantage of the flexibility that the state has provided us in terms of providing temporary permits for businesses to be open. We've got 2 who've taken advantage of it. There's actually several others that might want to do that in getting permission to use the sidewalks, but those 2 happened very quickly. In some ways, sometimes I jump the gun, and so when we discussed this over the weekend, I said, well, I talked to the mayor, let's close the street, because it's best maybe we do that. So I did that first thing. I called Public Works and asked them to have it done first thing in the morning. I think they'd done it by 6:30, and then I heard from one of the other restaurants that they didn't like that. And I thought, well, they have to be closed because they're indoor only, but I forgot they had carryout. But we got that addressed really quickly, and they're on board now, and I think it's kind of a festive thing. You see people at lunchtime today, and last night I went and had dinner there. I think that it's a good thing, and it's happening all over the state. So next thing is this is an item because I put it on my report just because a counselor who's not here asked me about this. It's a $20,000 contract that we plan to enter into with the Chamber of Commerce. This contract will be approved by you all when you do the budget. So it's going to be part of the budget next time, and it won't be done until then. It's actually going to save us some money because they're going to take over the visitor center, and so for $20,000 we're going to be able to do what would cost us $38,000 for an employee before. So it's a cost-saving thing, and it's also going to be something that we're going to call on volunteers. They're going to help us recruit volunteers. We've got this volunteer council that we're going to be starting with. We already know a number of people who have told us they would love to go and spend 4 hours a day meeting people as they come off the train and introducing them to Las Vegas. So that's my report.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate all your hard work.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
Mr. City Manager, I want to thank you for taking the initiative of helping our small businesses. It's already, pictures are already on Facebook and the whole works. This is something that needed to happen, and I'm sure it's going to trickle along. I know other businesses in Old Town that are going to start doing the same thing, putting out their umbrellas and their people outside instead of inside because of the governor's orders. And I think we all understand the governor's orders, and she means well, I guess, in a sense of a covet. But as far as businesses, I mean, we're losing them left and right, and it's important that we do whatever we can to help them out, and I thank you for that. And the other thing is on this contract, if we do pass it or when we pass it, you can send me out for volunteer. I'll go volunteer. But thank you for everything.
And let me just say something about, we have a team here. And so community development was involved. Mr. Hendrickson was involved. Ms. Perea was involved. And Public Works was involved. They went out and filled in the holes in the alley behind Dick's so that they could have drive-through service. And they hopped on it and they didn't delay. I asked them to do it, by noon it was done. So my kudos to the staff.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next item on the agenda is our finance report. And we have Mr. Dominic Chavez reporting.
Welcome, Dominic.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first page we got here is the general fund, revenue and expense comparisons as of June 30th, 2020. For month ended, $12,158,411 with expenditures of $10,626,322 for a surplus of $1.532089 for the month of June. Our enterprise funds, water at $2,848,151, natural gas $5,200,436, solid waste $3,452,019, and water of $4,979,698 for a total of $16,480,305. With our total expenditures, starting with wastewater, $3,442,336, natural gas $4,705,540, solid waste $3,175,620, water $5,342,273 for a total expenditures of $16,665,769. Deficit to date of $185,464. Our recreation center, total revenues including a $400,000 transfer in from the general fund is $525,360, with total expenditures of $636,614, with a deficit to date of $111,254. If you take out that transfer, it would be a deficit of $511,254. Lastly, our lodger's tax, total revenues came in at $366,446, with total expenditures of $295,580, so surplus to date of $70,866. That's all I have for you this evening.
Thank you. Dominic, I always ask this question.
Yes, sir.
Whenever you give a financial report, is there anything in this report that you need to notify the council about, that you're concerned about, any negative trends, anything that would put us in any bad situation?
No, sir, not at all.
Okay, thank you, Dominic.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr.
If I
O'Mara?
can, thank you, Mr. Mayor, because I think that's very important. And I know, right now Dominic's sitting in that seat, but it's important for any finance person to, when the mayor asks that question, it's important for, if there's anything at any point that, you might have the finance person has a disagreement maybe with the city manager, or there's something that, should be brought to the council, because ultimately we're held responsible for that. And I think it's important that any finance manager does that, whether, he's afraid, the city manager is not going to like what he or she has to say, but that's important, and thank you, Mayor, for asking that question.
Thank you.
The other question that I had is, I know we kind of stopped, and I think it's important, the check report / expenditures that we used to get.
Yes, sir.
And of course, I know it's up to the council to decide if they want them. I think, to me, it's important just to, as a councilor, to review those. Of course, I guess we'll discuss that more, but to me, it's, any government entity should be looking at expenditures just to try to catch, in case, I trust your team, Dr. Taylor, but, in other entities, there's those things that happen behind the scenes, and the governing body or boards never knew anything. I think it's important that, we do review those, and that's my opinion on that.
And I'd be more than happy to write to any of y'all. It was the direction of the city manager for us not to provide it in this report. So, but I'd be more than happy to provide it at any time.
Mr. Mayor and Mr. Romero, let me just address that a little bit. It was Mary Romero, who was the finance director, said, we just were kind of overwhelming you with the data, and how important was that to you? And so I agreed with her in stopping those, but if you want to have them, we'd be glad to.
And it was just understandable. I know Mary, she was overwhelmed to begin with when she walked in. So, I'm just saying, from once everything's situated, I guess even with the new, business manager, once they get situated, then.
And Mr. Romero and Mr. Mayor, councilors, I didn't put it on in my report, but we will be submitting a name to you when we do the budget for a new finance director, and we'll be providing you with all the information as to his background at that point in time.
Thank you. Thank you, Dominic. Appreciate you
Mayor.
staying up late.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Next
Mr. Mayor?
item? Yes.
Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda.
What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Rivera.
the consent agendas 1, 2, 3, and 4.
There's a motion to approve the consent agenda, second by Mr. Montoya. Roll call, please.
And just for the record, Mr. Mayor, is Mr. Baca not present at the meeting anymore?
He left.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Romero?
Yes.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Ulibarri Jr., a second by Councilor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, the next item on the agenda are business items. The first item is to conduct a public hearing and disapproval to adopt Ordinance 20-04 to amend the Code of the City of Las Vegas, Chapter 66, Personnel Rules, Section 52, entitled Vacation Leave. Ms. Donna Castro is here to present on the item. Our Human Resource Director.
Hello.
Hi, Donna. Thank you for being here. Welcome.
And Mr. Mayor, if we can go into public hearing,
Oh, Scott, you need to swear in the,
or if we can first go into
Oh.
hearing and then,
I'll entertain a motion to go into a public hearing.
So move, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Montoya? Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Montoya, second by Councilor Ulibarri Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Mr. City Attorney?
Ms. Castro, please repeat after me. I affirm under penalty of perjury
I affirm under penalty of perjury
that I will tell the truth,
that I will tell the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you. Welcome, Donna.
Thank you. So in your packet, you'll have the ordinance that 2004 that we presented at the last meeting. I did make one change, however, and that is letter G of the ordinance. We struck that line where donation of vacation time is prohibited. And the reason we did that is because we are in the process of working on the sick leave donation program. And in order to do that, we had to strike this section. That way we wouldn't have to bring it to you again just to strike that. So with that eliminated, we will be able to allow employees through the donation program to donate vacation time to the sick leave bank.
Awesome.
Stand for any questions?
Yes, stand for any questions? Anybody have any?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If I may I ask the clerk a question?
Yes.
Madam Clerk, the publication of this, you just mentioned now that there was a change. When it was publicized, could you enlighten us as to the process of the publication? Does all that language, does that come out in the publication, or?
Councilor Mayor, no. So the publication is to give notice to the public should they want to come in and speak in the public hearing. So that doesn't get published, the whole entire, it doesn't. They can call the clerk's office and we can get that to them. So we're okay to have that change.
Okay, all right.
Because then we will go ahead and publish after it's adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I don't know if there's any more public input. I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Second? Roll call, please.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
Councilor Olivari Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Romero, a second by Councilor Olivari Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, is there a record proper in this?
No, not in this particular one.
It's a pleasure to council.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I make a motion to adopt ordinance 20-4 to amend the code of the city of Las Vegas, chapter 66, personnel rules, section 52, entitled vacation leave.
Second.
Second by Mr. Olivari. Roll call, please.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Olivari Jr.?
Yes.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Romero, a second by Councilor Olivari Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Vazquez.
Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Thanks for staying up late with us.
Next item on the agenda is to conduct a public hearing and approval, disapproval to adopt ordinance 20-03, amending the current fire code. We have Deputy Fire Chief Span here to present.
Welcome, Mr. Span. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, sir.
I'll entertain a motion to go into a public hearing.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Mr. Montoya. Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Olivari. Roll call.
Councilor Olivari Jr.?
Yes.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
Have a motion by Councilor Montoya, a second by Councilor Olivari Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. Mr. Span?
Mr.
Oh.
Mayor, we can have
Yes, sorry.
anybody who's here to speak on this issue to stand and be sworn in.
Okay. I affirm under penalty of perjury
I affirm under penalty of perjury
that I'll tell the truth,
that I'll tell the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth,
and nothing but the
so
truth.
help me God.
So help me God.
Mayor and Council, this is bringing before you the ordinance we brought to you last time after publication. No changes have been made. It's still adopting 2015, bringing up the state standards for the fire code.
Okay. Any comments, concerns, questions? Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Romero?
I make a motion to close public comment.
There's a motion to close public comment. Second. Second by Mr. Olivari. Roll call, please.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
Councilor Olivari Jr.?
Yes.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Have a motion by Councilor Romero, a second by Councilor Olivari Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Romero?
Make a motion to adopt ordinance 20-03, amending the current fire code.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
We have a motion by Mr. Romero, second by Mr. Montoya. Roll call, please.
Councilor Olivari Jr.?
Yes.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
Have a motion by Councilor Romero, a second by Councilor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Span. Thanks for staying up with us.
You're welcome.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor. The next item on the agenda is to conduct a public hearing and approval, disapproval of application number 1154391, requesting a small brewer liquor license for Wanted Brewing Company LLC, doing business as Wanted Brewing and Distilling Company, located at 400 Grand Avenue, Las Vegas, New Mexico.
Mr. Mayor, still not motion to enter a public hearing for approval or disapproval of application number 1154391.
There's a motion, second?
Councilor Toya?
Yes.
Councilor Romero?
I'm sorry, I didn't have a second on the motion to go.
I'll second, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
I thought I
Montoya.
heard the second, thank you. Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
Councilor Uribe Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Romero, a second by Councilor Uribe Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, motion carries. If I can have anybody who's speaking on the issue to stand and be sworn in.
I affirm under penalty of perjury
I affirm under penalty of perjury.
that I'll tell the truth,
And I'll tell the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
nothing but the truth,
nothing but the truth.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes. For the record, would you please state your name?
Brian McGill,
And what is your relationship with this company?
owner.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, the application was presented and the requirements have been met both for public hearing and zoning. We met those with the 45 days and the 30 days, so recommendations for approval. And I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mr.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? I'm just excited.
We're excited,
Yeah.
trying to get something going. and
Thanks for
it's a tough
opening the
time.
business, yeah.
Yeah, we're working on it, so I think it'll be good for the town.
Mr. Mayor?
Just for the record, what were the biggest concerns from planning and zoning? Do we know? I mean,
I have planning and zoning here.
And I know they were met, but just kind of.
They were met. The biggest concern was going to be their water consumption,
Mr. Mayor,
but they actually,
on the orders, take their oath.
Oh, you have to take your oath, I'm sorry.
I affirm under penalty of perjury
I affirm under the penalty of perjury
that I'll tell the truth,
that I will tell the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
nothing but the truth,
and nothing but the truth.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you,
The
Mr.
only concerns, and it's been over a year since this one went to the Board of Adjustments for approval, was the water consumption, but they were able to answer that question with the utilities and everything else when we went to, for comments from utilities way back when. And then the other concern was how they were going to get rid of their, what is it called, Brian? After you do the distillery, all that stuff?
The grist, the waste, the spent
The waste,
grains.
But they have a plan to get how they're going to do that already, and he can explain it better for you than me, because I.
Just by regulations.
Well, no, it's spent grains, we're going to donate it to a pig farmer down in Rivera, so it goes full circle.
Have a bunch of drunk pigs running around.
For some good pig later, a couple months later.
That's it, Mr.
Mr. Mator?
Mr.
Go
Mayor.
ahead, Mr. Mator.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maria, were there any letters of notification sent to the neighboring neighborhoods?
Yeah, we send everybody.
There was no response?
We had nobody complain about it.
No one. Okay, and the other question was, on the plans, is there sufficient parking for that?
Yes.
And,
And they also have access to a vacant lot across the street
Okay,
for parking, and if they need it, from Bill Warfield. And where's the other parking, Brian?
There's adjacent to the building, the existing parking spaces.
okay.
There's 20 spaces.
So Brian, how many employees will you be employing there?
Well, things have kind of shifted now. We're not looking to open the restaurant immediately. We're just trying to get manufacturing of beer and the liquor, distilled spirits, but we're hoping to have 6 to 10 to begin.
All right.
Or continue with what we've maintained through these times.
Well,
And add a couple more positions. So.
And you're originally from where?
I was born in New Jersey, grew up in Atlanta.
And you've been
Lived in
here?
Mora for 9 years.
9 years.
Yeah. Well, I've been in New Mexico now 11.
Nice.
Yeah, we love it.
Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you, sir.
We appreciate it, all businesses in Los Angeles.
I appreciate that, welcoming us in. We want to get going. It's been a long process, so.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments, concerns? I'll entertain a motion to go out of public input.
So movement. Second.
Motion by Mr. Romero, second by Mr. Montoya.
Counselor Levari Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, second by Counselor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to accept,
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Romero.
I make a motion for the approval of application number 11-54-392, requesting a craft distiller liquor license for Wanted Brewery Company.
There's a motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. Olivari. Roll call, please.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Levari Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, second by Counselor Levari Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you, and welcome, and good luck.
Hey, you guys, do we need to go over for the distilling as well?
Yes, that will be the next item.
Okay,
okay.
so we're-
Sorry.
We'll be going
No, no
into that.
problem.
Thank you. Conduct a public hearing and approval, disapproval of application 1154-392. This one is requesting a craft distiller liquor license for Wanted Brewing Company, doing business as Wanted Brewing and Distilling Company, located at the same location at 400 Grand Avenue. So if...
Mr. Mayor, a motion to enter public hearing?
All right. Motion,
Second.
second. Roll call, please.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Levari Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Levari Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
You have to be sworn in again? Or no?
He's still under oath.
Okay.
Yes.
We all are, right?
Yes, everyone
All right.
remains under oath.
All right. Any questions, comments, concerns? No? I'll entertain a motion to go back into regular session.
So move, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Liwari. Roll call.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Levari Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Levari Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Now we need an approval of the application.
Oh, do we have to go back into?
No.
No, just the approval, a motion for approval of the
Oh.
application.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor, to approve the public hearing application requested by application number 1154-392.
Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Romero. Roll call, please.
Counselor Levari Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Montoya, second by Counselor Romero. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries. Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Thanks. Make it happen. You guys have a good
Good luck.
That was
luck, guys.
fabulous.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Go ahead, be on us.
We'll see you soon.
Yeah, right.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is item 5, approval, disapproval of resolution 20-33. This is our annual open meetings resolution. And this item was brought to you at our last meeting. And we had to decide what dates we wanted to have the regular meetings. I believe it was decided that we would have 2 regular meetings, get rid of the work session. And I believe the consensus of the time was 5:30. That would mean we would have to change housing to 5 o'clock to have those 2 meetings at that time. I did poll the council to ask them which Wednesdays they would prefer. I did have a couple of the councilors want to leave it as is. One wanted the first and the third Wednesdays, and one didn't make a difference. So there you have it.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I'm the one that recommended the first and the third, because I looked at the yearly calendar, and it doesn't conflict with any holidays in October, November, December.
Okay.
So that was my
Thank you.
version of that.
Mr. Morel?
And mine, I requested to keep it the same, and that's just because
if we, the way I see it, this is my opinion, is if we do it, and I know Mr. Councilor Montoya had said to give the, the staff, meaning the clerk, she's the one that handles all this, would give them more time to get ready for the meetings, but the way I look at it, if we do it that way, they'll be getting ready all month instead of just those 2 or 3 weeks in between. That's my opinion. I think, and, the community knows, there's that break, because we have, between the second meeting and the first meeting, we have there's sort of like 2 weeks before on each one. The other way, yeah, we have, 3 weeks in the middle, but in between the 3 weeks, it's like there's more time that they're going to be spending preparing agendas and doing this. And I think once is all said and done, and we're going to have two meetings that we're going to be taking action, I don't see, the need for them having that much, it's not going to be that many things, because we're going to be taking care of it.
And I was looking at that point myself, but the other point was, for holidays, for Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, we wouldn't be throwing our meetings right before then when the employees are off on the holidays, taking vacation time. Staff does work hard all year round, and, I'd like for them to enjoy their holidays also, instead of workload, giving them more workload on, what was it, the third meeting of the month? Yeah, or the fourth.
And I'm willing to do whatever the council.
What's best for you? That's what
I'm used to doing it the way it is, but I'm willing to change it, so, council.
Another point,
I voted for that, to keep it the way it is. It's been like this for a while, so I don't think it could change, but I think we're just used to doing the same thing every time we come to the council meetings.
Mr. Mattel? The other, Mr. Mayor, if I may, the other point for the future, maybe we can discuss this other item at our retreat, is that maybe in the month of, I know our city charter right now reads that we have to have 2 council meetings every month, but a lot of other cities are only having 1 meeting on November and December. Again, it's lighter agendas during those months, for one, and taking into consideration the holidays and the employees and staff.
That's something we can discuss at our retreat.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Anything else?
That, Mr. Mayor, so then, because we could actually take care of that right now, so if there's those meetings that are conflicting now, we could put that, the meeting, second meeting, or whichever one conflicts, we could put that in the language right off the bat, or bring it at another time. We could take care of that right now if we do decide to keep it as is.
Well, you can't take it off because it's on the city charter that we gotta have 2.
No, what I'm saying, the 2 meetings, let's say the second meeting, or whichever meeting conflicts with the Thanksgiving or Christmas, whichever one's right before, well, we could since now put it that the meeting, language in there that the meeting in November will be held on Tuesday or something like that, of that nature.
We can do that, or the other option is in this, and we've done this before in the past, is we move the meeting, we just put out a publication that we're going to change the meeting at that time.
That'd be simple enough.
So either way,
As long as we have it,
publish.
that'd be fine.
What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Luari?
to approve the resolution, that 20-33 annual open meetings act resolution.
Thank you. Second?
Mr. Mayor, just clarification on the motion. The dates are going to be required, so we keep it as is.
As is.
I second that motion.
Roll call, please.
Councilor Ivani Jr.?
Yes.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes, I'll be here.
I have a motion by Councilor Ivani, second by Councilor Romero. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Next item on the agenda is item number 7, and that is approval, disapproval of lodger's tax fiscal budget. And we have Kutek Baca, or is it?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, point of order. This item was removed off the agenda.
Item 6 was.
This one and item number 10, at the approval
Item
of the
number
agenda.
6.
Number 10.
Item number 6 was removed,
And 10,
and item 10 was a presentation.
both of them were
Roman numeral
removed.
10?
Both of them were removed at the point of approving the agenda.
Correct. I'm on item 7.
I'm sorry. No,
It's okay. We have Mr. Hendrickson presenting on that item.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Thanks for staying up with us.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'm assuming you have the lodger's tax budget sitting in front of you. The one thing I will mention is there's a line item for the $85,000 for fiscal year 21 projected income. And in our previous discussions with the Lodgers Board, we haven't really considered that because it's such an unknown. But we did put it in there for the budget, and we're hoping that that's going to come true. So there's one of the reasons why we're showing like a large net balance at the end of the year and not having spent all the monies that we've had planned to do. So I just wanted to make that note that when you look at that.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the council? Any comments, concerns? Mr. Levy?
Largest tax.
Thank you.
Fiscal budget.
There's a motion on the floor. Mr. Levy, I'll entertain a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Romero. Roll call, please.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
Councilor Ivani Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Ivani Jr., second by Councilor Romero. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Next order of business.
Item number 8, and that is approval, disapproval to renew existing contracts with Las Vegas First Independent Business Alliance for highway billboard advertising. Total cost $27,435.
These are 5 local billboards in and around the city, and the price also includes several, I think, three changes of the skins on it over the period of the contract, which is 1 year.
Any comments? Mr. Mayor? Mr. Romero.
On this contract, does this go out for bid?
No, these contracts are with the owners of the billboards. So these are billboards that we've used for many years now. They're just outside the city limits, and both north and south. Okay. And so 3 of them are with Lamar, and 2 of them are, I think, local owners here in town.
Okay, but the way it reads here on the agenda is to renew existing contracts with Las Vegas First, not with Lamar.
Well, Las Vegas First is the ones who are actually contracting with the billboard owners, and Lodgers Tax is reimbursing, so they're just a pass-through. So there's no additional funding that they earn off of it, but they manage those contracts. And the contracts as they sit are very inexpensive. We're paying like $100 a month on a couple of them. And so we felt that at the time that we had agreed to the contracts, and that's one of the things, the reason why we're trying to get this through is that these contracts actually started in June, and because of the delays with the Lodgers Board getting their act together and getting things done, we kind of gave our head nod that we would go through with these contracts because we've done it year after year.
So my question is going to be a procurement question, is were other entities, I know Las Vegas First, but were other nonprofits, given the procurement process, was it made available to others, or are we just going with Las Vegas First? Because there's procurement process that needs to be followed. We can't just put out something and give it just, to an entity or a group. There's a procurement process that needs to take place, and my question is, has that taken place?
Not on these specific billboards.
So, Mr. Mayor, I guess my question is yes, it's a flow-through, but how do we know that's a flow, how do we know as a government entity that that's a flow-through? And if we have let's say the Chamber of Commerce wanted to do this, I'm just saying, we don't know, and it's not in here,
Lodgers Tax does get, we do get the invoices for the billboards, and we make the payments.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask legal?
Yeah.
My question is the procurement process. It's an entity, a nonprofit entity right now that we're approving a contract for, but
through procurement, there's processes that must be followed when you give a contract. So my question is, did that procurement process happen?
What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to go look at the procurement and see how that applies to renewal of contracts or extensions of contracts, which it looks like what this is, a contract that the city's had with this entity for a significant period of time, and the benefit to the city is we continue to get these rates that would be difficult or impossible to get if we started a new contract with somebody else, because it sounds like what Mr. Henderson is saying is that these rates that we're paying are rates that are based on this historical pattern of having conducts with this entity. But I'm happy.
But do we have the proof of that? You know what I mean? Do we know that that's the best bang for the buck, basically?
Sure.
I don't know what the pleasure of the council is, my question.
I had a question.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
I don't know. I travel Santa Fe once in a while, and every time I come back, I really never noticed that big billboard on I-25 south of Las Vegas, mile marker 339.42. So I said, I'm gonna watch every billboard, see, from Albuquerque yesterday actually, to see how many advertisements Las Vegas has. And this one, every time I've gone through there, I've always missed it. But it was because I was focusing on them, see where they were at. And this one particularly is like too far away from the interstate. It's almost like hidden. You gotta really like look for it. The other ones, I see they're right off the roadways. But this one here, you might want to check into a better location because it's too far away, and I'm sure people miss it the way I've missed it for the last 10 years.
Councilman, which one are you talking about?
The Fort Union Drive-In Theater one.
Oh, okay.
Metal B.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like on the hill, but it's
Right.
way far, like on top of a hill over there by itself.
It's not
And
very
then
visible.
there's another one in front of it that's closer to the road, and you look at that one, but you miss all that one over there.
Right.
So, and I think we've had that for 18 years, that billboard. I don't think it's ever changed.
Possibility.
Yeah, it is, and because I remember requesting them to find a different location, even if it was between Santa Fe and Albuquerque, instead of it being hidden there. I mean, I don't think it's of any use right there, to tell the truth. You gotta really be looking for it in order to catch your eye.
There has been some discussion, and I think one of the things that will be looked into probably this year, because what came up in one of the board meetings, was to, because we are using billboards for years and years and years and years, it may be beneficial for us to find a way of putting up our own billboard somewhere and doing it that way. So that has come up in the meeting, and that may be, I don't know if that'd be cost effective. That's just one of the things we're gonna have to look into.
Well, part of that is you gotta own the land.
Yes.
And the landowner gets a permit from the New Mexico Department of Transportation for that. And then we go and get a contract with the landowner. So I don't see how the city would be able to put their own, for instance, but.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor, just to clarify again, is that, and again, the procurement process. I mean, if we were to call Lamar or some of these people on our own, get the three, I mean, of course, they're the only ones, but get those quotes, how would we know to know that that quote that we're paying Las Vegas first isn't what the city would be getting, so why would we have that flow through? Or is it cheaper, or is it more? I mean, I'm just saying a procurement, from the procurement standpoint, that's my concern.
Do you want to table this? What's the pleasure of the council?
I'll make a motion to approve it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Is a motion to approve, a second?
Second.
Second. Roll call?
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
No, just because I'm concerned on the procurement process.
Counselor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Montoya, a second by Counselor Ulibarri Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. Next order?
Next item is number 9, approval, disapproval of resolution 20-40, authorizing the sale of the unused and vacant properties identified on the list attached here to as Exhibit A, and authorizing the City of Las Vegas to prepare a request for proposal for appraisal services for said properties. Mr. Hendrickson and Ms. Maria?
Council, Mr. Mayor, we were asked by the city manager to put a list together of properties that the city owns and that would be in a position that we could possibly sell those. So obviously, we don't have all our parks and stuff in here as well, where the list would be several pages long. So this is, let's call it the short list of properties that are available or could be made available. We have folks that are interested in some of the property in DBIB at this time and a couple other locations. And so in order to, as was mentioned earlier, in order for us to even proceed to get an appraisal on what the value of any of the properties are, we have to get your approval to do so.
What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to, I know Ms. Beth, our guest, took off, but I'd like to ask those questions for her. And that was, have like the inspections done on this yet? Or are these going to go through a realtor? And when they're sold, are you going to enforce that they keep them up to date and cleaned up, the yards and all that stuff? Basically, these are her own questions. I'll have my own, if you might answer.
Who can answer that, please?
What kind of inspections was she talking about?
Well, she left too early to even find out, but this would have been the appropriate time for her to ask these questions. I would have yielded the floor. But probably if there's contamination, because she did mention the old...
Well, the only one that would probably have contamination would be the old solid waste facility behind Michael's position. That's about the only one. But that's been, God, it's been empty for about...
Since 70s.
Yeah, about...
In the 70s.
That's about the only one that might. And I know that they used to bury dogs there a long time ago. But that's about the only one that might have contamination. The other ones are just vacant properties that we are not utilizing at all.
Yes, and I understand.
And they do cut, the Public Works does go, if we ask them to, they'll go cut the weeds if we, you know, we show them, tell them where.
Mr. Mayor, I think that with our budget being, the projections that are going to be short in our budget next year, this is a good idea for one. Number two, I think that I've been approached by a few business owners that have joint property with the city, and they're willing to purchase property outright, you know, after the estimates and all that has been done. So I think this is a good thing, Mr. Mayor. I think that we need to move forward on this. I don't know the process myself as far as if the landowners have the first bid at it, or if they already submitted the letter of intent, or if they're auctioned out, or if they're put on the market. I don't know in that
Which
process.
ones are you talking about?
Well, the ones, let's say at Ledger's parking lot.
Those ones, first choice from what was, when they did the subdivision, first choice goes to the property owner adjacent, because they don't want him to be landlocked.
Okay, so the ones on Mills, on Legion is the same thing?
Legion? Yeah, those were the one in front of Ledger's, in front of those 5 right there?
Yes.
Yeah, the property owners, current property owners are going to be given first choice, so they don't get landlocked. And that parking lot right there, that the city, right now it's a parking lot, I believe that's a big liability for the city right now, you know what I mean? Because anything happens there, accidents, whatever, the city gets...
So if the owner doesn't show interest, then what happens? Because they haven't shown interest before, some of those owners.
Well, some of them, they call and ask how much it's going to be, but we tell them we need to get an appraisal. We can't just give you a price, because we don't, the tax records at the assessor's office don't even give a value for any of these things, because we're tax exempt, so we don't know.
So if the property owner is not interested, then what's the process?
Somebody has to submit a letter of interest, and then we go from there and see what happens.
Okay.
And we do have letters of interest for the ones that debid, for 3 or 4 of them.
And basically the process, people understand, the public understands, is you identify the piece of property for one, and there's no use for it for the city.
No, we don't. We have no use for it.
I know there's not. But from then on, you go and get a survey
Actually,
and pass the half of the bill to the whomever's buying it?
Yes.
Or-
Yes.
Yeah, more or less, something like that?
Yes, the appraisal and the survey and probably the closing costs.
Okay.
On previous contracts, those have all been included as the cost to the buyer.
So there's no realty involved? Basically, it's a city and, let's say,
it's a
municipal
contract
land,
between the city and whoever.
the municipal land and company that will do the survey and all that stuff.
We actually contract to get a survey ourselves. We get quotes and get a purchase order and get our own surveyor.
Okay.
And that's the way we do with an appraisal. Well, this one's going to be an RFP, so we're going to try to get all of them, kind of like a cost for all of each individual property, but all at one time.
So let me ask you, can you come up with like a pamphlet or something of the process, just in detail, like a sketch for anybody that's interested?
Is there an ordinance?
Actually, if you look at
There's
ordinance,
resolutions.
there's a resolution 0608, and it lists
Maybe if people are interested, or say, they won't feel left out?
We could probably put something on the website.
Yeah, give them
Yeah,
some.
we could just do a little,
Yeah.
this property said that, if you're interested, please submit a letter of intent,
Yeah.
and then this is the process we follow.
Yeah, this, because, a lot of times people say, well, I never got a chance, or, oh, a councilman's friend bought it, or whatever. And this way, everybody has the same opportunity, as long as you follow the process of letting the owners know first, and then go forward. Okay, thank you,
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor? I had one question. I know, I kind of agree with Councilor Montoya as far as, we could use it based off of the budget shortfall that's proposed, but my question is the long-term financial impact. We know any city property is part of, goes into assets, and those are used in conjunction with, if we do bonds or loans or anything like that. So my question is,
Do they use the vacant properties for that too?
the assets, yeah, it's an asset that, that's included in the plan when, the city has so much, when you get to the bonds or you do loans, any loan that the city would be doing. So that's, my question is, the long-term effect, if we get rid of all these city properties, then our assets, there's going to be less assets of the city when we do ask for.
So, for instance, Councilman, the property in D-Bib, most of the sales, I'm assuming all the sales of the property in D-Bib went into a fund. And so there's $450,000 sitting in that fund, and that fund was set aside to do, improvements in the properties. So, I mean, it's up to the council if they deem the properties that sell could go into a fund like that.
It's not the money that's coming in, it's the long-term effect that those properties right now are listed as assets for the city.
Yeah, but these are properties that we really should have no interest in. We should get rid of them, and it benefits, like for instance, in front of, between Dairy Queen and the old Subway. That where they have the snow cone, or the ice cream cone, that used to belong to the city, all the way to the restaurant and the fire station. I mean, we sold that to them, so that they could have their drive up at the Dairy Queen. But behind Subway, all that to the fire station, it belongs to the city. And we have no use for it. The guardrail that's there is a liability. Nobody maintains those trees and stuff like that. So it's only to the benefit of the owner to purchase it.
I'm just saying, we have a financial advisor, that handles all that, the bonds and everything. I mean, my question is, in long-term effect, if we get rid of all these properties, how does that for future, bonding or anything?
Do you want to answer the question, Mr. Taylor?
That I don't know.
I believe that those things probably aren't valued, and we haven't put a value on them, and so they're not really, even though they may be an asset to the city, there hasn't been a value put on them. And in disposing of them, there is a value to the owner who buys them, but that must mean that they're going to pay property tax on that. So we might be getting something that's
A wash.
of value, but it's not being valued, and of course, whether that actually increases the value of the property or not is something that the assessor would have to determine. So my guess is going to be pretty much a wash. But the bigger thing is, it relieves us of the liability. And so we've looked at a number of these things, and we get complaints that we need to go out and cut the weeds. And so it's a cost to us to take care of these properties that have no value to us, or very little value.
And I believe they also pay insurance on it, don't they, Dr. Taylor?
You changed my mind, Dr. Taylor, thank you for that.
What's the pleasure of the council on this issue, please?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Ulibarri?
approval of item number 9.
Thank you. Second, please.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Second by Mr. Montoya. Roll call, please.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Ulibarri Jr., a second by Councilor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 10 is approval, disapproval of resolution
Thank you, Bill,
number
for staying up. Thank you, Mario.
20-34. This is a request for a match waiver administered by Department of Finance and Administration and the New Mexico Department of Transportation in the amount of $29,447 for grant agreement L400500. We
Thank
have
you.
Daniel Goulet, Public Works.
Council.
Welcome, Mr. Gurule. Appreciate you staying up with us. Did you have a comment, Mr. Montoya? Did you ask for the floor?
I thought that I didn't have.
Okay, thank you.
But I just.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Goulet.
Here seeking approval of Resolution 2034, which is the match waiver for the co-op, which is going to be the West National Project.
Yes.
It's an ongoing project right now. I stand for any questions.
Thank you. Awesome.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Merrill.
I make a motion to approve Resolution 20-34.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
Councilor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Romero, a second by Councilor Ulibarri Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item is also with Daniel Goulet, approval, disapproval of resolution 20-35 and local government road fund cooperative agreement administered by the New Mexico Department of Transportation.
And this one should come first, but this is actually approving the funds for this project, which is the co-op, which is it's about 111.
Okay.
And our max is 29,000.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Merrill.
make a motion for approval of Resolution 20-35.
There's a motion, second.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Second by Mr. Montoya. Roll call, please.
Councilor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Romero, a second by Councilor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Goulet. I appreciate you being here.
I just want to take a moment, we don't see him that often. But I want to thank his staff and his department, they're doing an awesome job, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Goulet. Please extend a thank you to your staff. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, next item is number 12, approval, disapproval of resolution 2041 for submission of a completed application for financial assistance and project approval to NMSA. And this is funding to complete the Hot Springs water line replacement project.
Okay, Maria, please.
Good evening, Mayor, councilors, Mr. Manager. I'm excited, the next 5 are all kind of the same item. In about March or April of this year, the city utilities put in for 5 projects for funding. All 5 projects were made it under the fundable list in the top 5 positions. So the city ranked 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this is one of the first projects, which is we're requesting a resolution so we can move forward with the next step in the process, which is for the Hot Springs water line replacement project south of Mills. This is already planned and designed. We're ready to go to construction. The estimated construction cost is $800,000. The subsidy amount will be $600,000. The city of Las Vegas is on the fundable list for a 0% interest rate with the $600,000 subsidy.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Merrill.
make a motion for approval of Resolution 20-41.
Motion by Mr. Romero, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Romero, a second by Councilor Ulibarri Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item is also Maria's, and that's resolution 20-42.
Mayor, Councilors, Mr. Manager. The second request for resolution for the funding is for the supervisory control and data acquisition system for our water treatment plant. This was ranked number 2 on the list, and on the funding list, it'll be approximately a $500,000 project. $375,000 would be subsidized with 0% interest.
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Romero.
Make a motion for approval of resolution 20-42.
Second, please.
Second.
Second by Mr. Duvari. Roll call, please.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
Councilor Uribe Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Romero, second by Councilor Uribe Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries. Next item is approval of resolution 20-43, also an application to NMFA.
Mayor, Councilors, Mr. Manager, request for approval from the council on a resolution that will allow us to move forward with the application for the track vac system for our, at the water treatment plant for our clarifier system. This is what keeps our clarifier cleaned and allows us to go a longer period of time on a particular basin. The estimated cost of the project is $300,000. $225,000 of it would be subsidized, again at 0% interest. And I did forget to say for the other 3, and with all of these, the Utility Advisory Committee did recommend approval.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Romero.
Make a motion for approval of resolution 20-43.
It's a motion by Mr. Romero. Second.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Second by Mr. Montoya. Roll call, please.
Councilor Uribe Jr.?
Yes.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Romero, second by Councilor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries. Next item is 15, approval, disapproval of resolution 20-44. This is also an application for financial assistance to NMFA.
Mayor, Councilors, Mr. Manager, this would be for project number 4, ranked number 4. It would be for the Hannah Park effluent reuse system expansion, so we'll be able to take the effluent line from the golf course area, from the rec center area, and up to Hannah Park and be able to provide Hannah Park with effluent water. This has already been planned and designed. It is also ready for construction. About a $500,000 project, $375,000 would be eligible for subsidy at 0% interest.
How did the Utility Committee?
They recommended approval on this one as well.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor. Mr. Montoya.
I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 20-44.
Second. Second by Mr. Romero. Roll call, please.
Councilor Uribe Jr.?
Yes.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Montoya, second by Councilor Romero. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Question. On this, thank you for all the applications and for all this funding. This is going to be like $1.5 million or so for the city of Las Vegas. And what's the process on this? Just everybody gets it, or there's amount of 30 communities that are after this money?
In this case, there were 10, actually, I think there were 11 that ended up requesting the funding. The communities submit, there is a panel that reviews them to determine which ones are ready to go and the need for the community, and then they're ranked. And then from that point, the next step would be the application process, followed by providing all the documentation, technical memos, plans and designs, everything that the funding agency is requesting. We're ready to go on all of that.
Thank you.
They've been working really closely with us on these projects.
Thank you for your hard work, my dear.
I think there's one more.
Yes, we have one more. Item 16, approval, disapproval of resolution number 20-45. Also an application for financial assistance and project approval to NMFA.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Romero.
And I think we all, read everything, just approve it. Make a motion to approve resolution 20-45.
Second. Second by Mr. Lirari. Roll call, please.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
Councilor Uribe
Yes.
Jr.? I have a motion by Councilor Romero, second by Councilor Uribe Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
If I might, Mayor, just to give the actual number, $1.725 million in subsidy, $575,000 would be the responsibility of the city for all 5 of these projects at 0% interest. So we're getting we would get 1.7 million when we submit all the documentation.
Thank you.
And are those available every year, or?
Yes, sir. They're actually quarterly. We work, SRF works on a regular basis. We submit them, and then on the next quarter, they'll review them. And this is the best quarter to go for, because that's when the most subsidy is available.
Maybe we can put the Mountain View soccer field on there next time for influence.
For effluent. Mountain View Soccer Field, we may actually be able to tie directly off the Hannah Park line, as in addition to the existing one, because the line will go right by there.
Thank you. I appreciate you staying up with us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, the last item on the agenda is disapproval to publish ordinance 20-06. This is to amend the code of the City of Las Vegas Labor Management Relations Ordinance by deleting and repealing Chapter 48, Sections 1 through 22. We have our city attorney, Scott Aaron.
Thank you, Mr. Aaron.
May it please the mayor and the council. So there are some recent changes made to state law. And in addition to that, because of that state law that was changed, one of the things that's changing is that rather than having these labor relations decisions made at a local level, which we have a committee that meets and handles those things, we have a board, I'm sorry. Rather than doing it at the local level, what's happening now is there's a movement being made by not only the people who are having these disputes heard, to move this up to the state level. And so we have been notified that because our board hasn't met and hasn't been functional for a while, that it went before one of these hearings to basically disband our board. So rather than going through that kind of long, arduous process and potentially incurring more attorney's fees and fines, it's in the city's best interest to just vacate this ordinance. That would also mean that that board is vacated, but it's that our board here locally hasn't done anything anyway for a considerable period of time.
Thank you, Mr. Aaron. It's a pleasure to council. Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor. Sorry.
Make a motion for approval to publish ordinance 20-06.
Thank you. There's a motion by Mr. Romero. Second. Second by Mr. Ulibarri.
Councilor Montoya?
Mr. Mayor, is this your recommendation?
Yes.
Yes.
Councilor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Romero, a second by Councilor Ulibarri Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you for staying up late with us.
Next item on the agenda is to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Ulibarri?
a motion to adjourn?
Thank you. There's a motion by Mr. Ulibarri.
Second.
Second by Mr. Montoya. Roll call.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Ulibarri Jr., a second by Councilor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. Turn in your survey sheets because we'll be planning the retreat soon.
Here's mine. I'll bring it.